Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of the 3-part webinar or module, if you will. And I love it that you've been with me for Step into Holiday Magic. And you've, I think, figured out why I call it that is because, in my opinion, the holidays have the opportunity to give us magic. Thus, we have the opportunity to make use, to access the energy of the magic. So, by the way, if all of you would please mute, I'd greatly appreciate it if you haven't already done so. And if somebody comes on and they're not muted, I'm going to have to interrupt for just a moment and ask them to. But you all know that. How many of us have been utilizing this platform called Zoom and all the others for what, almost 2 years now? Isn't that crazy to say? That's another reason for bringing in the whole idea of Step into Holiday Magic. The season is one that allows that, but we have to acknowledge that there's so much stuff going on out there that can pull us off track of feeling good about ourselves, feeling good within ourselves, helping our bodies feel better. How about even feeling good about our relationships and what's going on? Or just feeling good about being out there in the world. Jessica noticed earlier that there was kind of some craziness going on out there in the world and today when she was shopping. And sometimes it's tricky, would you agree? To keep that space of joy, of allowing ourselves to experience happiness because we're in the midst of something out there that isn't. Just like I mentioned before, one of the main reasons I love the season is because of the reason, if you will, to bring in all the lights and the sparkles and the colors. That's why I have Christmas all over the place, because I love the sparkles. I love turning on the lights. In fact, they're on most of the day, and PG&E loves me. And why I have Santas all over the place, some of them that are music boxes and some that just light up and some that just are there because I love them so much. Same way with the angels. I bring all that into my space because I feel the energy of the joy, of the magic. I don't know if that's the direction you go. That's what makes my heart jump for joy because it's magical. When I turn on those lights or listen to Christmas music or even just feel the energy of the beauty of getting presents ready for the kids in my life, figuring out what I'm doing and how to create the gift bags, how to get them all mailed off in time. And just like I was doing last night with my daughter, I was accessing all the joy of those moments and experiencing ahead of time how I knew those kids, those families were going to respond. Because I know from the past how they respond to my presence. Presence, Presents, that kind of presence. And yes, maybe it is giving my presence into the picture. Who knows? Be that as it may, it's about being in the moment. So what we've been covering over the last couple of times, Star, could you mute, please?
I'm trying.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. Make sure you do. Thanks. So over the last couple of times, we have been talking about helping the magic be more available to us by creating the flow of energy, utilizing acupressure points, and then opening up the breath as a result. Energetically, when we balance our energy, we help breath flow. And when the breath is flowing and the energy is flowing, we are accessing energy balance points And the meridians, the rivers of energy, those energy balance points are located on to fulfill their purpose. You heard me say each energy balance point, each meridian, channel, river of energy, whatever you want to call it, has a purpose, a reason for being, a meaning. And all of that is about purpose. And every single one of those pieces wants the purpose fulfilled. It's like recognizing that the body you walk around in, yes, it's a living being. And because it's a living being, it's made of all these pieces and parts that have the ability to all talk to each other. They have the ability to have a conversation with each other and with you as a whole being. When they're in a state of balance and harmony, that all is possible. Not just possible, it's probable. So when we spend time doing our energy balancing on a daily basis, we allow our bodies to feel that harmony. And as soon as the harmony is there, you know what the body says? I like this. I want to keep it. And because what the body does better than anything else is copy itself, when the energy is in flow, it will copy it. Now, that said, as I've mentioned before, if there's some areas of blocked energy balance points that are stuck, acting like beaver dams on those rivers of energy, if they hang out there for any length of time in a blocked state, they get slower, more jammed up, and hold on to stagnant, blocked energy. Well, if that hangs on for very long, what do beaver dams do? They grow because they accumulate. Think about the rivers in the mountains or anywhere. If those rivers start having beaver dams and they're not broken down, they are going to continue growing from all the limbs and brush and everything else that comes down the river with the current. Same thing happens in these bodies you walk around in. So the goal is to help your bodies be in that picture, be in that environment where the rivers are always flowing. And if something does get stuck for whatever reason, and we talked about how that can happen, you can utilize your fingertips to access the energy balance points and help them release, break apart, tweak by tweak, log by log, until all the pieces. And in the body you walk around, it's sort of like a collection of toxin. And when those energy balance points release, guess what? Your body says, I got the message and this is what I want to have. I want flow. And when your body's in flow, anything's possible, anything's probable. Breath, thus respiratory system, digestion, processing, first ingesting, processing, digesting. How about eliminating, yeah, on all layers and levels. Vascular system, all reproductive system, all the pieces and parts of you have a better opportunity to work in an easy, effortless way. And you've also heard me say that it's kind of nice to take away the work picture out of it and make it a playground. When all those pieces and parts are playing together and talking to each other, there can be this beautiful conversation that takes place. And that will happen when there's balance and harmony. So your body will more easily pick up on the messages. And as it picks up on any messages where, hey, your body's trying to get your attention by that sore elbow or the sore knee, or that feeling in your gut, or that achiness through your eyes, or the ears ringing, or whatever it might be, or even feeling a little bit wobbly on your feet, whatever it is, those are indicators. They're messages. They're little twinges maybe that are trying to get your attention to say, take care of me. And when you take care of me and help balance it out, get rid of the blockedness, the stuckedness, as soon as that happens and those energy balance points release and the rivers are flowing, the body says, hey, thank you kindly. I appreciate you. So you know what it's all about? balancing frequently, consistently, connecting with your body. And then you can more easily recognize what's going on. And the recognition could actually be, hey, I feel good in my body. Thank you kindly, body. That's an awesome recognition. And if something's not so good, hey, body, thank you for the message, and I'll take care of it right now. And this is what I get to do. And we'll review some of that and add some more. As soon as there's recognition and awareness and acknowledgement in that moment in time, and you are in the flow to take care of your body. And as soon as that's transpiring, you are helping your body stay ahead of the game, preparing your body for whatever you might be asking your body to do, and preparing it for whatever might come at it. Because we don't plan on stress, but we live in a world. We don't plan on stuff happening, like maybe being exposed to something or twinging something because we step off the curb, whatever the case might be. Just guessing. Whatever the it is, when your body's in a state of balance and harmony, it is more easily available to be there to take care of you without any consequences. And if there is a consequence because you are making use of your energy balancing tools, you can help your body get the message in a quicker way to get on the other side of it. So this is where we get the opportunity to say, hey, body, I got you. I got your back. And then your body's going to say right back to you, because it's a game of reciprocity, I got your back, lady. I'm taking care of you, and I thank you kindly for taking care of me. So we talked about breath. I don't think I have to review too much of that. We talked about digestive system. We're going to talk more about elimination, because it's not just about the elimination of the system in the body, the physical system. It's about helping your body let go of old patterns. And I know we did a little bit about that, but I want to do more, because it's all about moving away from old patterns so we can release the stuff that's in our way of being who we want to be and being how we want to be in the world. And all of that also then means that we are more accessible to the me, so you can be more available to the folks in your world. And isn't this the time of year when we want that more than anything? Well, we want it all the time, of course. I mean, why wouldn't we, right? It's more fun to have that kind of availability with others. We're more in the moment. We're more making a difference in so many different ways. In our business world, in our relationships, especially with family and friends, in how we are, how we play the part of whatever we're playing. And what it also then means is we are there in such a way that we can increase the prosperity in all areas of our life. And that's what I want to talk about for the magic tonight. Because guess what we're going into next year? Yeah, next year, we're going into 2022. How can that be? How can we almost be at the end of 2021? Well, that happens, of course, but I don't know, it's kind of got me boggling my mind, like, how can this be? So we talked last time about clarity and focus. And as a reminder, we can more easily be available to all the possibilities if we have clarity and focus, which gives us productivity, which gets us the availability of what we can do in our worlds. So remember, one of the best ways to accomplish that, to access that, is to hold the base of your skull. When we're here, we are accessing consciousness and awareness. In Jin Shin Jitsu, we are accessing the ability of opening up the window that admits the light of knowledge. I don't know about you, but when I say that, I want to say hallelujah, because then everything's possible. We're making it available to ourselves and to those in our world to have awareness. When this area, the base of the skull, the occipital ridge, is in a state of openness, we have clarity and focus. So with the next step, you could cup the back of the head. So if I'm going to mirror you, the right hand is on the back of the head, so the fingertips are on the left side. And your left hand is going to cup your forehead, so the fingertips are on the right side, just like so. You only have to do one side because the body's bilateral. But if it feels good, if you can feel the magic happening, the energy really opening up, then be willing to do a nice little switch. And remember, a couple good breaths, light, gentle touch is all you need. This is where the effort gets taken out of the picture, right? And if we take the effort out of the picture, as I said last time, we get to take perfection out of the picture. We get to kick that right out the window or the door, or whichever direction you want to have it go. Because it's about being. The body knows your intention. So yes, this is the energy balance point. This is the energy balance point. And if you're close, you're going to do the trick. So if you don't quite know, just be in the moment. Now, as I've mentioned as well, after you do any of this for any length of time, and many of you already know this, is you will start feeling the pulse of the energy beneath your fingertips. That's the pulse of the energy. It's not the heart rate. It's the pulse of the energy. And after you hold anything for a couple good breaths, you might very well start feeling the pulse equalize and balance. That's a clue to you that your body is responding and saying, okay, I got it. Now, these are just the tips, right? We can work them into all sorts of flow patterns, which is what I love to do in my ongoing workshops. And we get to do some of that. We did some of that last time, right? One of the best things to do in helping your body be in the moment and take those steps into the possibilities is to help your body let go of old patterns. Here's the best one. It's a review. It's a reminder. Hold the outside of your knees. So where I am, I'll show you on my screen. It's about right there, right at the outside of the knee. And when you're there, and you can go a little bit under as well if you wish, where do your fingertips want to be? Where does your body want your fingertips to be? When you're in that space, it's all about rhythm, strength, and peace. That's the purpose of the energy balance point. And when it gets fulfilled, it allows you to more easily move forward. And it's one of the best energy balance points for repatterning, reprogramming, giving your body the ability to create new habits. So it's like a trigger point. That's why I love making use of this. It, by the way, is an anti-inflammatory point. So if you have any kind of aches or pains going on, any part of your body that's asking for a change, whether it's an actual ache or pain, like an elbow or a hip or whatever, or whether it's your gut kind of achy, or whether your breath and chest feel tight, hold that area with one hand and hold the outside of the knee with the other. So that might look like this. So if my chest is a little tight, maybe underneath my collarbones feel constricted, just hold that area and hold the outside of your knee and put those two together, and it can help change the pattern of tightness. We had some other points that we could use with this one, but I want to just bring that to your attention because many of us are recognizing there. Have you noticed how many people have colds right now? So it's important to help our bodies not take that on. So I'm going to give one to you right now. So hold your fingertips at the top inside corners of your shoulder blades. If this was the window, by the way, this is the door to all understanding, the door to prevention, the door to possibilities. So right in that area, it might feel a little firm. It would prefer be like a valley between the shoulder blade and the spinal column. Hold your hands there and feel it change. There you go. Now, keeping one hand there, bring your other hand to the chest. And what you're doing is connecting immune system and respiratory system to work together, to play together, to be together. Because this area right here is all about gathering up the energy and dispersing it to every cell of your being. Breathe it in, know it, feel it. This is a really awesome immune booster. And don't we all want that right now? And it can even filter out bad air. This is one of the best travel points you can use. So if you're going anywhere, whether it's on an airplane or a car ride, and you're going to a destination to be with family or friends, consider doing this to prep your body. And then off and on the time you're there. I love this because it is such a quick way to bring a message to your body, to be available for health, be available for breath. So one of the best ways to get, in my opinion, to get rid of excess baggage. You ever feel like you have excess baggage that's getting in your way? Boy, do I have that happen once in a while, let me tell you. And I'd prefer it to not be the case. So have you ever noticed that when you're carrying excess baggage, it's really easy to go into a state of efforting? I mentioned last time that one of the best ways to take care of that and kind of help your body get the message that, hey, it's okay to let go of that one, is to hold your little fingers. That's part of the jumper cables, remember? And by the way, when you do this, are you noticing already how much easier it is to get deep, expansive breaths to assist your body with the purging exhale and the expansive inhale? When your body lets go of efforting, when it lets go of trying too much, trying to all, you get to help your body go into that place of trusting that all is possible. That's why when we hold our little fingers, we can assist our bodies in seeing what the possibilities are, acknowledging the possibilities, being available for them. The next one I love to do is to cup your right hand. I'm going to mirror you again over your left shoulder and hold your left hand at your left groin. So anywhere in the outside edge of the pubic bone, that groin area, or maybe out here, where do your fingertips want to land? And be there to access the energy of the letting go. This energy balance point, right where your neck and shoulder come together, it has a tendency to be a garbage collector. Now, it would rather not. It would rather never accumulate. So by holding here and holding at this point, you are giving your body a message that it's okay to let go. Give your body the space of changing the pattern and letting go. This point at the groin, at the base of the pelvis, is all about safety, security, joy, laughter, happiness when it's in a state of balance and harmony. I mean, look what's there. We are accessing so much potential when we do this, because we are giving the body the opportunity to let go of the old pattern of accumulating blocked energy and saying, yes, we want you to collect it because we don't want to have it hanging out there, but then to give the body the opportunity of letting it go. So instead of this being a garbage collector, how about we call it an ongoing, constantly moving garbage disposal that doesn't make any noise. Okay, just feel that space. And then after a few moments of holding this and your groin area, joy, laughter, happiness, bring that left hand to your sit bones. And we know in the daily clean your house flow that that one accesses vitality. So when you bring your hand from the groin to the sit bone, it's all about creating so much space all the way from the top of your head, the back of your head, your neck, your shoulders, all the way down along your shoulder blades, the mid back, the low back, the sacrum, the hips, and all the way down and out. So when you're doing this, first the groin, I switched hands, so I'm doing the other side. You don't have to, the body's bilateral, but man, it feels good. I don't know about you, but I love it, especially sitting in front of the computer, big time, or when I'm out in the garden, or when I'm stretching to decorate my Christmas tree. In fact, I have a newsletter coming out tomorrow, and there's a short video in there that shows my tree and the exercises, the Jin Shin Jitsu flows I used while I was decorating. And now bring that hand to the sit bone. And I swear, I know that because I utilized these points, I was able to do all the hours and hours of decorating that tree with 1,000+ ornaments. It allowed me to go up and down that step stool multiple times, putting on the lights, putting on the ornaments without my body going into reaction. Because that's what this one does, folks. If it helps your body not go into reaction with what you're asking your body to do, physically, mentally, in front of the computer, emotionally, being with folks who you need to sort of be on top with, imagine that utilizing these simple little energy holds will help prepare your body so it doesn't go into reaction. I was able to do all that decorating, and I know that it didn't go into my neck and shoulders. My shoulder blades didn't get all tightened up. My mid back got a little tight. I had to do some other extras, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm being upfront with it, folks. Now, to release any tension that might have been created for whatever is, what you're ever talking to your body about, or your body's talking to you about. We've talked about this one before, is to find that point right underneath your collarbone, and you just bring your fingertips towards the sternum. Choose a hand to cup it, cup the sternum like so, thumb on one side, fingertips on the other. And then hold your other hand with your fingertips in a vertical pattern on your tummy right below your navel, like so. When you do that, you are utilizing energy balance points that help draw all tension out of jaw and throat and neck, both front and back, and you're bringing in breath. And it works so well, it even helps with digestion because it helps to swallow, right? We talked about that. It works so well, it works right when you're in the dental chair. I mean, how crazy is that? And then after you do this and you feel the spaciousness you've created, what I love doing is going again to the outside of the knees, because it's in that moment, the outside of the knees, it's in that moment that my body gets the message that it's all about repatterning, reprogramming, giving the body a new habit, a new way of being, which is really an old way. It's reminding your body how to be in flow. Then to release any accumulation that maybe got caught up somewhere, and that's what can bring up efforting, would you agree? Would be to give yourself a hug, because it's connecting with breath, with lungs, with diaphragm. Oh, I love this one, you know that. And it's connecting with an energy balance area that's all about being true to yourself. It's connecting with relationship. When you balance this energy balance area, you're giving this beautiful message to your body that it's about being in good connection with self, stepping into who you are, being the leader of you, taking you into that next step where you can be true to self, speak your truth. It's even connecting with an energy balance point way back there that gives you limitless life power. So that's where you totally help your body let go of efforting by just holding here with light, gentle touch. It is accessing the energy of this point back here that says, hey, when I have all that beautiful breath moving through me, when I can be in that place of ease, of calm, I can speak my truth. So it works with voice. It works with hearing. It allows your body to be in the moment. So wouldn't that be an important piece to be good to yourself and give yourself a few moments off and on throughout the day to be that for you, especially when you're having conversations with people who you want to continue that good, strong relationship. Why do I say that? We're looking at the holidays. We're looking at gatherings. Sometimes we end up with folks who maybe in the past there have been some kind of trials, moments of time where you feel like you have to watch your words. You don't want to bite your tongue because that's not okay, but kind of hold off on what might come out. Have you ever had moments like that? Yeah. Whether you were with family or friends, business colleagues, whatever it might be, when you take the moment to really understand who you want to be and how you want to be, and do this for yourself, you're more easily available to be true to self. And when that's the case, who knows how much strength you might have, how much power you might have in whatever you're going to do next. This is where we really step into what destiny do you want to fulfill? What space in life, in the world, do you want to take? Do you want to be part of? Who do you want to be in connection with? What words do you want to say? What content do you want to be sharing? Whether, again, it's personal or business or whatever combination it might be. When you can be in that space of being that empowered, you create a space where you have power. Not that you're taking power. You have the power to be the you want to be. So with that in mind, one of the best things you can do to really assimilate all this and restore who you want to be is cross your hands and hold the opposite rib cage, like so. When you're there, you're connecting with energy balance points that are about assimilation and sustenance. You're allowing all this energy that you've been playing with, accessing, to be assimilated and made use of. So it creates not only a sustained piece of you, but sustainability. Who do you want to be in the world? How do you want to be in the world? When you step into that and feel the power that you have within you to stay in a place of balance and harmony, that's what you get to express. That's who you get to be. So this works with bringing new behaviors in all levels: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. You can actually help your body let go of all old stuff that might be in the way of your sense and state of well-being. How empowering is that? That's the feeling I love. So the other one you can do, yes, this works. You can also hold your elbows for that same picture, or you can combine them. Hold an elbow and hold the base of the rib cage. Again, remember, this is about breath, just like this, breath and accessing relationship with self and with others. Another one that is so, so powerful to step into who you want to be and how you want to be is hold your mid back with both hands, like at kidney level, about right there. Okay. And when you're there, you are accessing the energy of destiny. In Jin Shin, you are accessing the energy of a empowered, moving, productive vascular system. So your circulatory system, you're actually helping it do its job without effort. You're also helping your body on all layers and levels more easily, listen to these words, circulate in the world you're living in. Yes, this is about circulation within you. And when it's in a state of balance and harmony, it allows you to circulate how you want to be in the world. See how everything we do for the within helps us be on the outside. It's all one and the same. It's about the we, the you, being all you want to be. So what I love to do is hold right here at that mid-back area, and then take your hands to the top of the sacrum. So right at the small of the back, like waist level. So about right there. And when you're there, holy moly, you're accessing the wisdom of the body, the innate wisdom. Your body has so much. It is so powerful. And when you give it the message that you believe that, you know that, you trust it, your body can say, oh my goodness, I'm along for that ride too. This is a game in reciprocity. You take care of it by balancing the energy. It will take care of you. So if you ever feel like low back stuff, you hold the low back, right? Have you ever noticed you do that? Well, guess what? When you do that, you're not only helping your back let go of maybe some stuck energy that's causing discomfort, you're helping the energy balance points fulfill their purpose. And the purpose is to give you wisdom, because it is about wisdom. So it helps connect with the clarity and focus that is so available to you. It's what are we doing? Just like I said at the beginning, we're helping each balance point have a conversation with every other balance point. You're helping every meridian, every channel, what I like also calling the rivers of energy, have conversations with all the others. So everybody's on the same page, talking the same words in the same language. So there's no question. So your body says, hey, I recognize what you're talking about. I want that too. I acknowledge that it's all about being in balance and harmony, and I'm along for the ride. Let's have a conversation about that. In that picture, your body will more easily be able to get your attention if something's a little awry, if there's something that needs to be corrected in the sense of helping let go. Another one that really helps let go is to hold the forehead like so. Oh, I love this one. In Jin Shin Jitsu, this is all about memory. It's about being in that place of so much available memory and available understanding that it's all about everlasting eternity. Wow. So when you do this, it's like, oh, have you ever noticed, by the way, that if you're in a lecture hall, in a conference, and you have a speaker and they go like this, maybe they don't know energy balancing, but intuitively, what are they doing? They're accessing the memory to pull up the words. For those of us who know this stuff, quote unquote, we're accessing the available memory that brings us to the place of the everlasting possibilities. Bring that in connection with your low back, right at the top of the sacrum. See, this is where we start connecting and creating your own flow patterns. When you go to that low back in Jin Shin, it's number 2, by the way. And oh my goodness, the wisdom that was available here goes right, connecting with the innate wisdom of your whole body, and everything says, oh, I got the message. I am ready for the ride. I'm ready wherever you want to take me. Because that's what this is about. Let's face it. We live in a world where we're on a constant ride. And we need to be available at all times. Yes, we can sleep, we can rest, and we still need to be available at all times in all places for whatever the world and our bodies are telling us. When we do our energy balancing, that's what we're giving ourselves. It's such a beautiful gift. Wouldn't you agree? What a gift you give to yourself every single day and every moment of the day that you're doing your energy balancing. So be good to yourself. Take time for yourself and be in connection. Because that's what happens when you are doing your energy balancing. You are in full, absolute connection with every piece and part of you, getting everything. It's like connecting all these electrical circuits and getting everything to talk to each other. Be ready for that. Because when you put your space, your place, yeah, it is your house. When you put it into a state of balance and harmony, when you allow that to be, you can go on the ride. And then life can be an adventure. And I consistently remind myself of that. Thank goodness I have all of these tools in my tool bag, because I oftentimes have challenges just like everybody else. And when my body experiences that state of being calm from the energy balancing, I am more likely to be able to step into the possibilities. So that's why I start every day doing the daily clean your house flow. Because as you all know who do this already, it is an easy, effortless, beautiful, calm way to just be. When you help the energy flow, the breath follows and everything just goes. You don't even have to understand what the points are about. That's why kids can make use of this and get such a benefit. That's why when I work with elderly who may not have the cognitive space in mind at this point, where they sit there and do the daily clean your house flow or the jumper cables at least, and they feel it, they experience, they know it. And the beauty of a 100-year-old getting that smile on her face because, oh, she feels the space, she feels the breath. How beautiful is that? So accept the moment, every moment that your body wants to receive this. So when you create that beautiful space of ease in all that you have for vitality, for loving life, for being in life, when you're in that place, everything gets rejuvenated. That's what this is all about. Yes, we need moments to rejuvenate, to regenerate. So that's why sitting on our sit bones, holding your sit bones, whether you're sitting, standing, lying down, or any combination. Remember, this works no matter what position you're in. That gives your body that whoosh of being in the moment. When you sit on your hands, it gives you a pick me up. And it can relieve back and neck tension. That's why I love this one in the daily flow, where you hold here and hold your sit bone. If I didn't have that one in my tool bag when I'm out in that garden, digging holes, lifting dirt, planting plants, whatever it might be, the wheelbarrow, whoo, if I didn't do this, my body would go into reaction. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't, but there's less and less possibility that it's going to be major. Because if I do it before, during, and after, and then at the end, I might say, I might have pushed it a little bit too much. I'm going to give myself some extra. And yes, I might get in the hot tub. Yes, I might take a hot shower. Yes, I might spread some balm on my back. You do that in conjunction with everything else you're doing right for yourself. So another piece that is absolutely beautiful that I really want to share with you is, yes, there's this thing called giving yourself a hug. I want you to give yourself an even bigger hug, because this one really connects with everything you want to create. When you give yourself a great big giant hug and go to the right, just at the outside edge of those shoulder blades at the scapula. So it's kind of like on the backside of your armpit, if you will. So you can reach it like so. You can go through your armpits. You can come over the back if you need to, however you want to and need to. So in other words, and I've said it before, if you have any kind of project that your body has, whether it might just be shoulder tightness, neck tightness, and that's tricky to do, then find another way to do it. Maybe it's easier to do this than to do this. Maybe it's easier to do this than to do this. Whatever it is, give yourself that giant size hug. And what you're doing is connecting with an energy balance point that's all about, you ready for this? It's about complete. That which was, is, and shall be. When I teach my ongoing workshops, I love talking about this point because it's all about helping the body recognize all the potential. When this is in a state of balance and harmony, it helps your body release so much stuff, because you know what it is? It's the blueprint of everything. And helping your body access that energy and be in that space of calm, of joy, of knowingness that you've got its back and it will take yours. When this experiences balance and harmony, and yes, there are other ways to help it, and I probably can't get into all of that tonight, but when you feel this pulse go into a state of balance and harmony, meaning you might actually feel the pulses equalize and balance, your body will say, hey, I've got you. I know this. I understand this. I believe it. I know it. And I know the possibilities. So when you're here, and just feel that. Now I put another one in the handout because it's so powerful. So I'm going to show you my foot when I do this, okay? So when you hold this area with one hand and hold the opposite foot with the other hand. So what's that look like? So I'm going to pull up my foot and show you. And it's right here. It's in that metatarsal between the little toe and the fourth toe. Just come right back there like so. That is an energy balance point that when it's in a state of harmony, it can help your body let go of anything that's in the way. Now, it would prefer to never be holding on. And when it's in a state of balance, it will give a message to any other point to say, let go. So holding these 2 points together is so powerful. to break down old patterns and create new ways of being. What I love doing is doing this both directions. Okay. Be in the moment with it. Hold it for a couple good breaths, light, gentle touch. And yes, I am bringing my ankle over to my knee because that's comfortable. You can also prop your leg up on a table or whatever the case may be and experience the moment. And then switch to do the other side. And you know what I really love? Doing it 3 times each side. I did this one way back when, 20 some years ago, when I was still dealing with the consequences of that car accident that I'd had 27 years ago or whatever it was. And I still remember sitting in the baseball bleachers, watching my son play baseball in the Little League. And I had so much tightness through here. And I did this one because it would go down into my shoulder and arm. And I remember just hanging out and doing this off and on. And it made such a phenomenal difference. I want you to know that this is a possibility for not only helping let go of physical discomfort, but helping to let go of anything that is accumulating and getting in your way. Could be old thoughts, old projects, old beliefs, old patterns that are not probably in your best interest. And you really like to let go of them, but they seem to keep showing up. If you feel them showing up, do some energy balancing to help let go of it. And guess what? The body, physically, mentally, emotionally, because it wants to be in a state of balance and harmony, everything we've been talking about, yes, it's great for relief and release, letting go. It helps help let go of pain, of discomfort, of inflammation, of whatever's in your way to be who you want to be and how you want to be. And you can get to the place where it's about prevention and maintenance. And that's the beauty of spending time doing your energy balancing. That's where you get to be ahead of the game. So you are better prepared for whatever you're going to ask your body to do and better prepared for whatever might come at it. Now, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. When I do my energy work, what I'm telling my body is, I love you being in flow. I'm not telling it, I expect you to get stuck. I'm saying, I love you being in flow and I want you to keep on being in flow and let's do this together. This again is creating a playground within you. Think of it that way. It's helping everybody collaborate. So it sort of is like a workplace. Everybody has their job. Every piece of you physically, your knee, your hip, your stomach, your gut, your heart, everything has a job. And it would rather not be working. It would rather be in a play mode. That's how I think. Because when it's in a play mode, there's a heck of a lot more fun going on. And there's more possibility for joy and laughter and happiness, and definitely more room for magic. Isn't that what we've been talking about? Is creating magic in our worlds, creating magic in our lives that allow us to be who we want to be in our daily existence, in how we spend our days, what we do with our days, and also how we want to be with others. When we live in an environment, walk around in this house that's in a state of balance and harmony, we are more available. It is more probable that we will be in a state of mind, a state of being, a state of emotional balance that allows us to be calmer, more fun to be with, no matter what's going on, maybe even more available to shrug that one off, more available to be within breath, to stay in breath, to keep a smile on your face no matter what's going on. And maybe even, I'm going to use a negative, to not go to that place of clenching, of biting your tongue, of not speaking your truth. Being able to be in such a state of balance and harmony that you can be true to yourself, say your truth, be your truth, listen and still be able to listen and be in conversation, be in discussion, and be available to you. If we are first true to self, acknowledging all that you can do and all you can be, in those moments, the magic is so there that who knows what's possible. And in that framework, think of everything you can release. Yes, you can improve communication. And guess what else? You can potentially release self-sabotage. You can release any old patterns of emotions that get in your way, whatever they might be. You know those better than anybody else, right? This is where you get to have a conversation with yourself. And this I give you permission to do. When you're doing your energy balancing, have a conversation with yourself. And another piece I love to do when I do the daily flow or anything else, I create affirmations. I literally create affirmations that are not necessarily tied to the purpose, but yes, if I'm giving myself a hug, it's all about, I love you, body. And this is how we're going to live through life. And when am I sitting on my hands? Yes, about bringing that vitality in. And I also know that when I hold the outside of my knees, it's about, I love you so much, my body, that I want you to be in patterns and behaviors that hold both of us, the me and the body, in a state of ease, of calm, of joy, of being able to express. So I don't get caught up in the stuff. Because it sure is easy, wouldn't you agree? Because most of us have so much going on in our worlds. So in the new year, I will be offering a workshop that is a expansion of everything we've been doing together, studying the 26 energy balance points of Jin Shin Jitsu and fully discovering who they are, who they want to be, how they want to be, and how they all play together in this house you walk around in. And when that happens, which will probably be in February, all of you who have registered for this class that you are attending right now, you will be receiving a special gift discount. And you will be notified of that soon. I don't want to give it to you now because why build up information that you don't need to hold on to? You'll be receiving it all. And in that framework, I hope that all that you have been doing for yourself in the last 3 weeks, you continue. Be in the moment. Give yourself time to take care of you. Balance your energy. Feel the breath, feel the movement, feel the joy. And when you're there, anything's possible. And of course, I wish for you the absolute best, most magnificent holiday season, however you celebrate, if you celebrate. Because guess what? Everything we've been doing for the last couple of weeks has a purpose for the holiday season, but has a purpose for every single day of your life. And my dream for you, my wish for you, is that everything we've been talking about is fully experienced in that way. So you'll be getting an email tomorrow with the video of this and all the other videos in case you misplaced any of them via those things called emails, and the handout again, and anything else I decide to include tonight. How's that sound? Because I love being with you, and you can tell, I guess, that I love sharing with you how to access the true you, the being you want to be. I wish that for you and love the season. Be good to yourself. It has been a joy. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then you can stay on and chat if you'd like.